Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glen Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. with Glen Sutherland. This week, my guest is Kayla Andre. I should have looked it up. She's been on the show at least once, maybe twice. Anyway, it's been a while. Twice.
Yeah,
she's nodding twice. Yeah. So, but it's been a little while.
Yeah.
I think I met Kayla a long time ago with all of her what's it called, advocation for like landlord rights and everything else, and then it turned out, like, I remember even I went to her conference a few times, and then it turned out she lived like 10 houses away from me where I used to live. So anyway, Kayla, if you want to give everybody a bit of an intro to yourself, and then we'll go from there.
So I've been a landlord for the last 24 years. I've been a housing advocate for 15 years, fighting for landlords and good tenants and our taxpayers regarding the Residential and Tenancy Act, the Landlord and Tenant Board. And now, obviously, since I started, it was municipal policies and bylaws. So I've kind of just been able to travel around, meet different landlords, and going to different associations, bringing them into my little landlord group on Facebook. And now I'm just about sharing everyone's voices and their concerns with the RTA with our elected officials, and helping them as much as I can, taking their phone calls, answering their questions, and introducing them to Front Lobby since I became the ambassador to Front Lobby as well.
Awesome. I had the other front lobby guy on there maybe a year ago as well. Kayla, your job, I don't think I've ever told you this, but I was like, it looks like the hardest job I've ever seen in my life. and I think everyone who's a landlord in Ontario appreciates it, and doesn't realize what all the stuff you do. But honestly, that sounds exhausting for all the stuff you do.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm not just like pumping tires here. I'm serious.
You're gonna be making. I know I put a lot of blush on right now because I didn't know this was happening. I should have put more.
But I don't know. I don't know where we're gonna go with this. But I know some of the big stuff was Bill 160. Even when we were chatting before, you were talking about some stuff going on in Hamilton. So he want to say 160. I don't know why I want to say 160. He says 60.
Because they had 184 and then they had 97. So it's not your fault. It's just government confusing everybody.
Yeah. So Bill 60. Because honestly, even when people are listening to this podcast, a lot of them are might be thinking, why am I talking about Ontario stuff? Because I do a lot of stuff on investing in the US, but this is my backyard. I live in Ontario. This is where I grew my business to start with. And if this stuff could get fixed, who knows what the future holds. But it was some of these landlord things were so difficult is what pushed me into the U.S. to start with. So hearing progress is very encouraging. Are you looking to invest in the U.S.? Are you looking for a coach rather than a coaching program? Well, you're in luck, because that's where my coaching program is completely different. It's not about just teaching you all the material. It's about having a community of people all doing the same thing. It's about doing one-on-one calls with me to strategize, to plan, to look over deal analysis, to check markets with you. Just honestly, just to solve mistakes before they happen. If that's interest to you, you want to learn about the coaching program, or you just want to do a one-on-one call with me just for 10 minutes, just to answer a couple questions, just to get to know me, go to my website, glensutherland.com, or canadianinvestingintheusa.com, and you can book a call right at the top. And I'd love to get on the phone with you and just even get to know everyone.
And you want to talk about it because a lot of our landlords in Ontario want to go to the States. Even with Bill 60, they're still at a point when this is going to be pushed through and actually in play. And again, there's changes, yes, and it gives you hope and it shows that you're cracking down on these professional tenants. But deep down, we need more bills like Bill 60 in order to attract people back to Ontario, right? So I think they're getting that, especially since Doug Ford got to witness these tenant unions inside of the gallery acting like screaming children. I have 4 children. They were acting like children. They also had the leader of the QP union who donated to one of the tenant unions that were there. And it's how is this acceptable? Like, one, it's okay to be like, I'm advocating, this is activism, like, but
Yeah.
what they were doing was not, that was intimidation. That was harassment and intimidation. And based on Bill 60, and I wrote a letter to the editor regarding my thoughts on Bill 60, because there was 130 organizations that wrote a letter, obviously trying to make Doug Ford and the Conservatives look bad for creating Bill 60. And I did a letter, and that letter resulted in a tenant calling my phone 44 times in a half an hour. And she
Oh,
was doing it, she's still doing it. Like, she does it randomly now, and it's not at 44. She's probably now about 20. But I have to like forward all my anybody that's calling me and they don't have their number shown. I actually have to go to my voicemail, just because I've been outspoken and obviously in favor of Bill 60. So a lot of people don't know what's happening with Bill 60. They're listening to what media is saying. They're listening to what these tenant unions are saying, and they think that okay, all tenants, all good tenants, are going to get evicted and they're going to get evicted quicker. So let's break it down. So first, you got the 7 days is so normally. So I'm trying to like talk about the old way it was and then the new way. So
sure.
the
Yeah.
old way is that landlords had to file at the landlord and tenant board. You had to wait 14 days from giving the notice to your tenant. Bill 60 allows you to file that paperwork now at the landlord and tenant board on the seventh day. Now, opinion. Sounds great. I like that we can hold our tenants accountable to paying their rent a lot quicker of 7 days and not waiting 14 days. But reality, rent is due on the first,
Yeah.
right? Like, so we kind of want to work that. I can see us, having that consequence to the tenant where they're going to pay $186 filing fee. So that's the punishment. But is it going to put more applications in the landlord and tenant board? Possibly. They just have to make sure if they do incorporate this as they do it, that they have to have a process to have an easier way for the landlords to withdraw their application. Right now, they have to go on the website, they got to print a form, they have to sign it that they are withdrawing their application, then they have to send it into the landlord and tenant board. Then it's going to take some time for the staff to withdraw the application. So I'm
Wow.
hoping the portal can make that easier so that we're not backlogging the landlord and tenant board a little bit sooner. Another red flag that we're obviously concerned about is when you are filing at the landlord and tenant board to evict your tenant for non-payment of rent, tenants were able to bring up maintenance issues. They're bringing up maintenance issues that the landlord didn't know about, probably didn't even exist, or they created the maintenance issue and then said that the landlord did it or the landlord neglected it, and that's what's happening. Either way, that could have resulted in the hearing being adjourned for the landlord to have some time to address the maintenance concerns. Now with Bill 60, they're stating that the tenant has to bring forward their application well before a landlord is bringing them to the landlord and tenant board, or they have to pay 50% of the amount owing in order to have their maintenance concerns heard at the hearing. So this is a great way to kind of stop those tire kickers, the ones that are just bringing these maintenance concerns up just to delay their eviction.
Mm.
Personal use applications. So normally we would just give 60 days notice, 1 month's compensation. You had to give that 1 month's compensation before the 60-day mark because that could have resulted in your hearing being dismissed. Now they've worked it where you can give 60 to 119 days with compensation, or anything over that, approximately 4 months, you don't have to give the tenant any type of compensation. I don't think we should be giving the tenant any compensation regardless because, hey, like, it's my house. I should be able to give you proper notice. But this is where fixed term leasing could come into play to avoid a lot of N12s and a lot of N13s. Just because it was taken out of Bill 60 doesn't mean it can't come back. So this is where we're going to try to do more advocacy work to structure it a little bit easier, not so much as like the old accounts. But stay tuned to that. I'll be advocating to bring that back into Bill 60. We have potential. The way the landlord and tenant board works, when we have a tenant that is persistently late on their rent payments, it always depends on the adjudicator that you get. So it's either 5-6 times late, then they would put the tenant on a payment plan and a Section 78 where the tenant has to make their rent payments on time and in full, not a penny less or a day late. Now the Bill 60 is giving the adjudicators very strict indication of what is going to be considered late payments. How that works with Bill 60. Again, this is the fine print that we still need to kind of wait to see how it rolls out into the Landlord and Tenant Board. They're going to have a meeting on the 18th. I know you're probably going to watch this meeting after, so hopefully we'll have another update for you. But yeah, it's definitely, that's a good thing, because we do have to understand that tenants can't be paying their rent late consistently. What else? They're also going to be exploring the options of increasing the final landlord and tenant board decisions. So, as you know, you can report your tenants on paid rent to the credit bureaus without an order, without the tenant's consent. But I want those orders that tell me more to the situation. So I'm excited to see how that exploring is. I think it's just about making it quicker, easier to be researched. And I think within the portal and the improvements, I think we're going to be able to see good things come about that. They also have eight potential temporary sheriffs. They're hiring more sheriffs because there's a delay in the backlog of people waiting for the sheriffs, because you're waiting a long time for your hearing, then your order. Now we're going to be looking at the sheriff. What is it? Set aside. There's got to be future regulations to set out circumstances and conditions which must be met to set aside to be granted. So this is where the government would consult on circumstances and conditions which would include the regulations. So it's a way for them to potentially show proof. Because right now, if you look, everyone has the option to set aside their order. But here we could be, we're not asking any type of evidence. It's, yes, you can say I follow underneath the circumstances. So I did put some recommendations in place in asking the government to make sure that they provide evidence from the tenants in order to have that set aside order. But they know that it's tenants are abusing the system based on dragging out their hearing. But Bill 60 is definitely a step in the right direction. We just now need to make sure that we tap our conservative governments on the back and say thank you, because they're getting a lot of rap for this, and it's coming from like the NDP, because this is an opportunity for them to make it look like Doug Ford's trying to make people homeless. No, Doug
so
Ford's
that they
making
can
people
get it next
accountable.
time. Yeah. No, there is a lot of stuff there, but even I just wrote down a couple things, but like defining late rent, like you just mentioned, that was one of the things. And if you think about how they work in court, if someone like breaks the law and does something, there's like a precedence that gets set. You'd think that there'd be a precedent that's set about what happens in these situations for late rent and repeated late rent, and like there should be, like you said, it shouldn't be up to the adjudicator. It should be set rules. This is what's considered late rent. This is how long you have. This is how often you can do it, and this is rules, right? Because if there isn't rules, then people get loose with the rules and people abuse the rules. Have you been thinking about investing in the US but wondering if these numbers actually pencil out? So I created a deal analyzer exactly for that reason. So if you're interested in it, completely free, go to canadianinvestingintheusa.com/deal.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what's happening. And you're right, because deep down though, if we look at the divisional court, they do the same thing. They give you a deadline. The tenants below the deadline, they have give another chance in court. Like, it's the same thing with the landlord and tenant board. Should be, it's very strict and it's black and white and it should be calculated. I will love to see more of an accountability when you have somebody that is abusing and not paying any month's rent for like 6 months, not a single dollar, even 3 months, not a single dollar. Time to really expedite that hearing because of what that tenant is doing, and leave an option to make sure that landlords can know about this type of behavior, because together, if that one tenant is doing this to multiple tenants, it's fraud. And people are getting charged with fraud, but you got to be able to track down their previous landlords or their future current landlords in order to be able to come together as a group and get them charged with fraud.
That sounds like an impossible task.
Oh yeah, like there's someone that's done it though. Like, they're tracking and a lot of that came to people posting their orders online and saying, "Whoa, I've seen that you had this tenant. Like, can we talk?" And then like, "Yeah, this is who they are. This is what they did. This is the damage they caused." And they're like, they just had me, and now I just found out she just got accepted somewhere else. And I found her because she was on Facebook selling items. And so I got my friend to buy something so we know where her address is. And I found her landlord. And then all three of them are filing fraud charges. And that individual is now in court dealing with fraud charges because they left three landlords without rent.
Yeah, and
But
this
it's a
is
lot of
like
work.
like these properties are like, it's Ontario properties. They're not you know well, I was going to list some places in the US, but they're there's mortgages, there's high expenses to running these properties, right? It's not like a market where there's $100,000 house they're doing this on even, and a cheap $700 a month mortgage. Like these are thousands of dollars of mortgages each month that somebody's just getting stuck with paying, when the idea is they probably read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then they came up with the idea, I'll get a couple rental properties, the tenants will pay for this at least to break even, at least, and then someday I'll be farther off, or I'll be able to fund my retirement, and this isn't what they're picturing.
No, no. And a lot of like I just posted a video online and people are like, it's people over profits. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you need to pay where you live. I need to pay to where I live. Where do you think like
Yeah,
this
we
is
have
like,
a responsibility to the lender or the mortgage company or
yeah.
whoever we're doing to pay our mortgage every month, and we need to receive funds in order to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah, but they expect it for free. And if you can't afford to cover your property by renting it out, then you shouldn't have multiple units.
Yeah.
This is the mindset that these I'm too even tired to even comment back. It's like just read my comments. I've already schooled you trolls once before. Like let's get on with it because your comment in itself just shows how uneducated you really are.
Yeah.
But I'm
Like,
like you,
well,
you stay there.
if like it sounds like steps, there's starting to be steps in the correct direction,
Yeah.
and it which is great. Um, but if it like it was starting to trend, like if you just like think about it, if it got so bad that no one wanted to be the landlord, then there's going to be fewer places to rent, and if there's fewer places to rent, then there's going to be more demand. If there's more demand, then the rent price is going to go up. If the tenants make it so that no one wants to be the landlord, I don't think the Ontario is going to step up and start doing the projects or anything like that of running their own housing. So it's just going to be put stress on the whole thing, and the rental prices will go up if everyone leaves. So it has to be something has to be fixed. Otherwise, it's just gonna you're just not gonna be affordable to even rent here.
Glenn, taxpayers need to be paying attention to this battle between landlords, tenants, and government because, like you said, like we're looking at taxpayers, they're going to be the ones on the hook to build, manage, maintain, and subsidize. But at the same time, taxpayers now are paying for government grants to go to nonprofit housing providers. And they're in the newspaper advertising what type of properties they're building with the money that they're receiving from government. And it's in $500,000 units. Like I'm like,
Doesn't make sense.
what? Like what are you building? And it's like it's car charging, like the stuff that they are putting in there, it's like, wow, like we have people sleeping on the streets and this is what you're going to use the money for? Like it's absolutely ridiculous to see. It's a mismanagement of government. It's mismanagement of this housing crisis because deep down the landlords are leaving. They've also seen the numbers come down because they stopped the international students, which our area got heavily bombarded with 17,000, over 17,000 international students. So that's why we're going to see any of the tenants that are looking right now, they have options, right? And landlords now are stepping up their game, trying to make sure that their property has everything that the good tenants want, that they're giving them extra amenities, also making sure that the price is right for the ones that can dip down and put those prices. But for the landlords who can't lower their rents because when they bought and what the mortgage rates are and their expenses, they're now selling. And I can see the spring market definitely going to be saturated, I think, with those landlords who bought it the hype and now it's not that great here in Ontario. And I think the worst is yet to come.
That's scary. So there's a lot of people that might be, if they're all waiting for the same spring market, um, yeah, that's not going to work. I've seen it in other markets in Canada and the US, and when everyone wants to do the same thing, that doesn't work out either. Your prices
No.
are you're not gonna get the price you're looking for because the buyers are gonna have too much selection.
I think they just think people are buying in the spring and they can do some upgrades and some renovations and make the curb appeal a little bit nicer. But still, more people are still talking about leaving. And you know what I hear all the time? It's Alberta. Like my husband's even talking about moving to Alberta, and I'm like, why? Like we're moving to Alberta? I like, don't get me wrong. Like Danielle's like a boss. Like let's go. But you know, it really sucks to see that we've had something so great in Ontario be heavily scrutinized by elected officials just because they're doing it as political theater, right? It's political theater just to get the kudos from media, to get the kudos from these organizations, nonprofit organizations that specialize in housing or mental health and addiction, and getting their staff to support that in particular elected official for the election. But that's why they're doing it. Even with Bill 60 coming to fruition and finally getting its royal assent, now we have those people that were fighting Bill 60, they're now messaging the elected officials at the municipal level and trying to convince these people to implement a renoviction bylaw within their city. That way, they're still being able to combat the landlords by getting the municipal governments, who are a lot easier to manipulate. And that's what they're trying to do. And they're timing it perfectly for the next election in 2026, October of 2026.
So do these municipal, if they get the municipal to create something that overrides the provincial?
That's the thing. It's not supposed to. So we have the mandate of like renovictions is that we have to have a contractor now through the RTA to state that the tenant does need to vacate in order to do the necessary repairs. A lot of these properties are aging, so a lot of it can't be done. We don't want to be dancing around tenants' time or their belongings. So yes, there's a good possibility that the tenants do have to vacate in order to do the renovation, but the landlords do have to offer it back to the tenants at the same rate. They still have up to 2 years to bring their landlord to court if they don't allow the tenant to move back in at the same rate. And the fines are crazy. $100,000 for an individual and up to $500,000 for a corporation. And there was a landlord in Hamilton who already got charged $100,000 because of their bad faith eviction. And a lot of it comes down to like not even having that much evidence, but they will do it. But now with renoviction bylaw, a lot of it comes down to being another cash grab because they want you to apply to the city to get money to give to them because it's a revenue stream. They'll give you a piece of paper stating that you can do the renovations and but the province trumps what the municipalities are doing. What you're going to see is the good landlords have to spend money that could be put towards the property, or you're going to discourage them from even coming into your city with such a bylaw. And we're going to see a lot of slum conditions happening because if the city comes to do an inspection through property standards, maybe I wouldn't have to pay for that permitting within the city. And again, if I get something from the city stating that the tenants do need to vacate to do renovations, they can now help me expedite my hearing at the landlord and tenant board. But again, it's great to look on a piece of paper, but deep down, it's not going to do anything. And I will be listening to my province and not to the city. That's me personally, guys. I can't give you any directions. I'm not giving you any legal advice here today. This is all personal.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, there was a ton of information there. For people who are Landlords Ontario, I'd probably suggest to re-listen to this a second time, maybe download the transcript because there was a lot of stuff there. Even me trying to write notes, there was a lot. Kayla,
I gotta really slow it down. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I've been eating and breathing this industry for so long that sometimes I could even spit it out of my mouth probably wrong too.
Oh yeah, I bet. But yeah, for me, I'm like, oh, this is so much for me to learn. So because I've been working in different markets, so awesome. People are listening to this. If people are listening to this and they're like, "Hey, Kayla, that was awesome. I want more of this." Where can you direct them? Maybe some Facebook groups, maybe some shows, and give them some. Where can people go?
Yeah, well, you can't really call me right now. You have text me. You can definitely look me up on Facebook, send me a private message there. I got my little YouTube channel, Ontario Landlords Watch, which I'm going to have Glen on because I want to tell our elected officials that, hey, we're leaving and we're being guided by Glen to get us into the States. So I definitely excited for on the YouTube. But if you guys are want to email me at olwlandlords with an S at gmail.com, I'll get back to you as quick as I can.
Awesome. Kayla, thank you so much for coming on the show. Lots of
Thanks so much, Glen.
That was a nice video. Bye.